Hey folks, welcome back to Infinite Podcast. So, Simon, tech's all around us, right? But let's cut to the chase. The supply chains are a mess, environmentally speaking. We're ripping out rare earth elements from Earth without much care for the damage. It takes a ton of energy to make our gadgets, and that's just scratching the surface. What's your take on how this plays out over time?
Joe, we're basically binging on the planet's resources like there's no tomorrow. And the gadgets, they're like fast food for Mother Nature, quick, easy, and a bad idea in the long run. We need a tech diet plan, or we'll be left with just wrappers and regrets, man.
Yeah, fast food analogy is spot on. But Simon, come on, it's not like people will ditch their smartphones or laptops, right? We're hooked. So, isn't the real trick finding balance? Advancements in recycling and eco-friendly materials, that's our diet plan. Hope is there with those breakthroughs aimed at reducing our tech footprint. Still, we gotta ask, can we innovate fast enough to offset the damage? What do you think?
Yeah. So, we've got this bullet train of tech, right? And it's not slowing down. Companies are trying to whip up greener materials, which is cool, but the pace, it's just not there yet. We're in a race against our own mess ups, basically. What I'm saying is, we've got to pump the brakes on the bad stuff while speeding up the good, like more recycling, better energy use. Making just one smartphone takes so much out of the planet, man. It's wild.
Hey, new listeners, quick catch up. We're talking about the cost of tech on the environment. So, it starts with mining for special materials that's harsh on the planet, right? Then there's all this energy into making our phones and stuff, which adds up big time. But the hope is in newer, greener tech and getting better at recycling. It's a bit of a tightrope walk, like trying to balance wanting cool gadgets, but also, not trashing Earth. Yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Totally, Joe. I mean, it's like we're all carrying a little piece of the problem right in our pockets, you know? So here's a thought. What if part of fixing this eco disaster is changing what we actually value in tech? Like maybe it's not about having the slickest phone, but the one that doesn't cost the earth its health. I don't know. What do you think about pushing that sort of shift in thinking?
Yeah, so shifting values, that sounds good on paper, Simon, but reality check. People love their shiny new toys, man. Telling them to value sustainability over the latest iPhone, tough sell. But let's not forget innovation is it's key here. If tech companies can make greener products that are just as cool, maybe we won't have to choose. It's like, hey, you can have your cake and eat it too, without the calories. Thoughts?
Ha, Joe, selling green tech is like trying to convince a gator to go vegan. Good luck, right? Just picture the ad now. Get your new eco phone, now with less coolness. But hey, save a turtle, bro. It's comedy gold. Folks just want the flash without the trash.
Yeah, Simon, the gator thing, hilarious, man. But seriously, innovation's got a real shot here. We've seen companies pivot before when there's pressure, right? So imagine better batteries that last longer, use less bad stuff, or screens you can fix yourself. If we actually up how much we recycle, and if folks start holding on to their gadgets for more than a minute, I think that's progress. Kind of like steering the tech ship away from the iceberg, so to speak. It's doable, don't you think?
Steering the tech ship away. Yeah. But let's be real. It's not just about making greener stuff. It's about actually changing consumer habit, like big time. Fact is, these devices are designed to be outdated quick. You know, the whole system's hooked on us wanting more, newer, faster. Until that changes, the production, the pressure to upgrade, well, then we're kind of just putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, aren't we? That's what I think, man.
All right, Simon. So here's another side of it. We can't ignore that the tech industry is kind of driven by demand, right? Folks want newer and faster because it helps them do stuff, work, stay connected, even be entertained. And let's not forget about competition between companies. That's pushing innovation and bringing prices down. But the thing is, this pressure to upgrade, it's also driving the push for, more sustainable tech. With older devices, efficiency's just not there. Newer models are actually using less power, which is good for the planet. So it's not all bad. It's complicated like everything else. Yeah?
No, man, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. Sure, newer gadgets might be more power efficient, but what about the old ones? They don't just vanish, they're part of the problem, piling up as e waste, leaching bad stuff into the ground. Think about it. Is a slightly better battery really progress if we're choking landfills with last year's model? It's not like a real solution, right? Just seems we're swapping one issue for another. And that's the heart of it. Joe,
Hey there, new listeners just tuning in. You've jumped into a pretty lively chat here on Infinite Podcast. I'm Joe, and with me is Simon. We're digging into the impact of tech on our planet. It's like we looked at how making tech stuff, from pulling materials out of the earth to actually putting together your smartphones, is not so great for Mother Nature. We also talked about these cool advancements in greener materials and better recycling that are kind of helping, but you know, it's complicated. Simon pointed out how we're still dealing with heaps of e-waste, and how even though new gadgets can be more efficient, the old ones don't just poof, disappear. They're part of the problem too, ending up in landfills. So yeah, we're swapping ideas on how changing this whole gadget go-round could maybe help us balance our love for tech with, taking care of the planet. Stick around, there's more to come.
yeah, and don't forget, it's not just about what these companies are doing. We've got to look in the mirror too. How many of us have that drawer full of old phones? Guilty. It's on everyone to be part of this change. So, what if we do something crazy like delay upgrading for a couple of years? Would the world end? Nope. Might even save a few bucks, right? I think it's a lot about our choices as much as the shiny new tech they dangle in front of us. Verse,
Yeah, Simon, that's a solid point there. It's super easy to play the blame game on big corp, but personal responsibility, it's huge. Um, so when we hang on to our tech longer, right, we're sending a message. It's telling companies we don't need the newest thing every year. And one more thing, repairability. If you could actually fix your phone rather than ditch it when something small breaks, that'd be huge for waste reduction. Some places are already pushing for right to repair laws. They make it easier to get stuff fixed instead of trashed. So this idea of cutting down on constant upgrades, encouraging repairs, and even better, choosing refurbished over brand new, all these steps, they add up, and they nudge the industry towards sustainability bit by bit. It's slow, but it's really important work, isn't it?
for sure, Joe. Making stuff last longer is great in theory, but man, we've barely scratched the surface, like a coin on a lotto scratch card, hoping to hit the jackpot of sustainability. Do you think we're due for a win, or are we just scratching in vain? What's next in this tech tangle?
Yeah, Simon. It's like every small action leads to bigger changes, right? Speaking of scratching the surface, how about we talk about something that often flies under the radar? Code. Yeah, the stuff that makes our apps and devices work. Seems like it's just virtual, but this code, it's got a carbon footprint too. So developers, they've got this chance to make a real difference by writing cleaner, more efficient algorithms that use less juice. This could be big for data centers worldwide, where all our cloud stuff lives. If coders everywhere start punching in greener code, imagine the drop in energy we'd see. Think about it. We're not just talking minor tweaks. This could slash the demand on servers big time. Don't you reckon that's kind of a hidden jackpot in our quest for sustainability?
Well, yeah, Joe, I get where you're coming from, but let's hit the brakes for a sec. Coding greener sounds like a feel-good story, but are we really saying programmers hold this magic key to saving the planet? Seems like a stretch, right? Sure, efficient code might help, cut down server workloads, and yeah, that saves some energy, but it's also about those giant data centers being powered by, fossil fuels. That's the big villain in our superhero story here. And another thing, people love their snappy apps. If a lighter code makes stuff slower or less fun, will folks even go for it? The real question is, can we have our green cake and speedy internet too? Uh, I'm not sold on that yet.
Uh, all right, Simon, let's flip that then. What if the push for efficient code ends up sparking a whole new level of creativity among programmers, huh? You've got to admit, Limitations can drive innovation. Coding with constraints might lead us to breakthroughs we haven't seen yet, could even spawn like a new era in tech. Sure, it's not the entire solution, but it's a damn interesting piece of the puzzle.
Uh, yeah. Okay, so, funny story, right? I was like helping my niece with her science project, building this eco-friendly house out of like popsicle sticks and stuff. And she's got this big plan, but we're running out of materials fast, right? So she's got to get all creative with it, using less to do more. And man, the things she came up with, like making a tiny solar panel from foil or turning a bottle cap into a rain collector, it was pretty wild. That whole doing more with less approach kind of smacked me in realization land about how creativity just blooms in tight spots, you know? Felt like it totally applies to how these code wizards could tackle energy use. If my niece can reinvent a bottle cap, who's to say they can't find new ways to lighten our digital footprint, bit by bit?
So yeah, Simon, while those feel-good stories are great, here's another side to consider. Overemphasis on code efficiency might be less impactful than we think. Like, even if you have the most streamlined code in existence, data centers still gobble up massive amounts of energy, right? And it's not just because of inefficient algorithms. A lot of times, they need that power to handle huge spikes in traffic. Think about when everyone's streaming the latest hit show at the same time, or Black Friday sales go live. The infrastructure has to support that. So, even if your code is super efficient, the system's design often demands excess capacity just to stay reliable during peak moments, which doesn't change much about overall consumption. And another thing, this idea that cleaner code leads to using fewer servers, well, data actually shows that as servers become more efficient, companies don't necessarily use fewer of them. It's what economists call the Jevons paradox. Improvements in efficiency sometimes lead to increased, not decreased, resource usage. Because as the cost of computation goes down, demand for computing rises, like a lot. So although aiming for more efficient code has its merits, focusing only on that angle might distract from the larger issue, how energy is being sourced for these data centers. Until we shift heavily to renewables, the core problem, it remains. You see my point there?
Ha, code's going green? Sure, it's like expecting a cheetah to slow down because you ask nicely. The internet's hunger for power is a beast. But hey, what if that beast starts running on salad instead of steaks, shifting energy sources like you said? Now that's a plot twist.
Haha, spot on, Simon. But imagine if that eco-friendly beast starts powering our servers with the digital equivalent of kale smoothies, like solar or wind farms. That's one buff and green cheetah, my friend.
Well, like imagining a server farm chugging kale smoothies is one thing, Joe. But let's go back to basics for a sec. When we turn on our apps, it's easy to forget that there's this whole backstage tech show running just to serve up our digital snacks. And they don't run on good vibes. So yeah, efficient code might nibble at the edges, but without clean energy as the main course, we're sort of missing the mark, right? It's like asking your car to be eco-friendly while you're still filling it with dinosaur juice. It doesn't matter how light your foot is on the gas if what's in the tank is still problematic. It's the fuel that needs an overhaul, not just the engine tuning.
So look, man, I hear you, but hold up. Switching our energy grip from that dinosaur juice to more of a salad bar, it's the big dream, sure. But here's the rub. Shifting to clean energy, it's like turning an ocean liner. It takes time and loads of space for those massive solar or wind projects. In the meantime, though, can't we give some props to the incremental wins? Like, if efficient coding can shave even tiny bits off power use while we're in this limbo waiting for renewables, small victories add up, man. It's like laying down tracks ahead of the train. It might not make it run faster, but ensures it can keep chugging along toward that green horizon. Keeps us moving in the right direction, you know?
Um, yeah, okay. So like when we're talking about small wins with coding, it's not just about direct energy reductions from the code itself. Think about it. Better code means less heat output, right? And that means cooling systems in data centers don't have to work overtime. So there's a chain reaction. Efficient code leads to less strain on physical hardware, and that could mean servers with longer lifespans, less replacement, less waste. Then there's the manufacturing side of things. Less demand for new parts because stuff doesn't burn out as fast. And like back on the user end, if our apps are running smoother on older devices because the code is leaner, you got it. We're not chasing upgrades all the time. We've circled back to e-waste reduction again. So you see, writing clean code, it's got layers of benefits that aren't always obvious at first glance. You can kind of think of it like this. It's not going to yank us into a green future on its own, but it's definitely greasing the wheels for when we do finally hit that big renewable energy highway. Every bit counts.
Heck, Simon, efficient code might just be like a stealth ninja in this whole environmental saga. Silent, but deadly effective.
But Joe, speaking of e-waste, man, you should have seen my buddy's setup. He turned his old phone into a level for hanging pictures. No more crooked frames in his house. Seriously, it's like there's this underground movement where people are turning their unused tech into, like DIY superhero gadgets. Hey listeners, you guys have any wild and wacky tales or funny ideas on how to repurpose that brick of an old laptop or your grandma's first mobile phone? It's improv time. Give me your best shot. Think ridiculous. Think comic book style. The wackier the better. Let's make them eco-friendly caped crusaders of our junk drawers.
Okay, guys, let's get those gears turning. Repurposing e-waste is one thing, but taking it to superhero levels, that's a whole new game. Like, imagine using an old mouse as a mini skateboard for your action figures, or maybe those ancient floppy disks could become the ultimate building blocks for a fortress of solitude. And let's not forget about all those retired remote controls. They could live on as dumbbells for a geek-themed home gym, right? What else? Oh, old phones. They've got cameras. Could they be secret agents in a homemade security system? I'm just spitballing here, but it's all about kicking our brains into that, overdrive mode. Come up with stuff so bizarre and amusing, you can't help but share it and laugh. And who knows, man? One of these gags might just spark a real idea, and then boom, we've got a viral trend cutting down e-waste. So, hit me with your craziest gadget repurpose. Let's shake up the recycling scene with some comic flair.
So like when we're talking crazy repurposing, there's actually some value in looking at these old gadgets as more than just, trash, because they've got parts like sensors, motors, and screens that could be harvested for other projects. Take an example, like old video game consoles. There are folks out there turning them into lunchboxes or even fancy aquariums. It's both hilarious and kind of smart if you think about it. Gives a whole new meaning to feeding the fish with your game skills, right? And what about using an old tablet as a digital photo frame? Sure, it's not comic book level crazy, but it's still a cheeky nod to keeping tech alive. Plus, it can be a conversation starter for when guests come over. They see your holiday snaps on this ancient device, and it's like instant nostalgia plus eco points. The point is, reimagining e-waste isn't just good for a laugh. It's planting seeds for change in how we view our old electronics. By encouraging these off-the-wall ideas, we're actually nudging people towards sustainability. It's a small step, but hey, every hero's journey starts somewhere, right? Even if that first step is transforming an old printer into a planter for your herb garden, talk about printing green.
Simon, old tech as new treasures? It's like showing the planet some love with a side of mad scientist vibes.
Hey Joe, what if your old tech hoard turns out to be a treasure trove for an alien cruising by Earth on the hunt for retro gadgets? Talk about universal appeal.
All right, Simon, brace yourself for a plot twist. But imagine these aliens, like, coming way across the stars just to geek out over our old gadgets. They scan planet Earth and say, whoa, look at that vintage collection. Makes our e-waste seem kind of cool, huh? But here's my pushback. What if these interstellar visitors actually teach us better recycling methods or show us tech we can't even fathom yet? And instead of them digging through our old junk, they're like, human dudes, let us show you how to upcycle with some cosmic flair. So I'm chuckling here thinking about it, but honestly, there's something big lurking underneath. This funny idea could tap into something, like sparking global conversations on reducing e-waste. Maybe we start seeing our discarded devices as potential alien souvenirs, which might make us rethink tossing them in the first place. Crazy talk? Maybe. But hey, sometimes it's the wackiest ideas that get people talking and ultimately acting. So, folks, let's run with it. What far out alien e waste solutions can you dream up?
Yeah, let's get intergalactic. An alien flea market here on Earth. Think about it. Maybe what we see as a pile of e-junk is space gold for them. They come down, all excited to barter with us, like your ancient flip phone for our anti-gravity pen. But hold up, if we can amuse ourselves with the idea of alien swapsies, maybe we need to steal a page out of that sci-fi book for our own recycling methods, huh? Like, just picture local communities hosting their own alien tech swap meets, where the theme's all about trading in old gadgets for other people's crafted innovations. Taking something on its last leg and giving it a fresh purpose doesn't get much cooler than that. So while we're having a good laugh, imaging extraterrestrials freaking out over a cassette player, there's also this serious undertone. It's pushing our creativity beyond limits, you know? Getting people involved on the ground level, it could foster a movement where repurposing becomes second nature. Like those sneakers turned into plant pots kind of trend, except with your broken DVD player now serving as a quirky time capsule container or something. It's all very DIY meets ET.
Totally, man. Swap meets turned up a notch. Takes one person's obsolete tech to become another's interstellar art project. Now that's recycling with a twist.
Um, isn't it wild how today's cartoons are schooling kids on sustainability better than most grown-up shows? Like, Captain Planet was ahead of its time.
Yeah, you're spot on. Shows like Captain Planet were planting seeds of environmental responsibility in kids' minds way back when. It's about showcasing the power of teamwork and fighting pollution. It sort of laid the groundwork, right? Now, take a more recent example, like those nature documentaries aimed at children. They're not just showing off cool animals, but also talking about how tech impacts habitats. What's key here is marrying entertainment with education, which, like, ideally starts up that chat around the dinner table. Programs in schools, too, they're now integrating tech with eco-conscious lessons. Kids coding their own green-themed games or learning about renewables through interactive apps. That's hands-on learning for a sustainable future, like we're crafting eco-smart innovators. And it's important because this stuff isn't just academic. These kids are going to inherit this tech-saturated planet. So instilling an early and often ethos of design with sustainability in mind is crucial. It's not just about using technology, but understanding its footprint and designing a better path forward.
Speaking of eco-smart innovators, like, there was this one time I stumbled upon my nephew, immersed in building a sort of recycling center for his action figures out of used-up batteries and old toy parts. Kids have this innate knack for repurposing stuff without even knowing the fancy terms for sustainability or upcycling. He looked up at me, debris of toy civilization spread all around, and goes, "Uncle, can we make robots that fix the planet?" It was, like he just cut to the heart of it all without realizing. His world is simple. Broken things get fixed, not thrown away. And as I'm helping him tape together a robot arm from an old remote, it hits me. We're kind of living through these moments with the little ones where playtime mixes with these profound life lessons. So, while they're all caught up in pretending today, they're actually shaping their reality for tomorrow. By weaving these experiences with technology into family fun, it's like we're subtling up our kids to think differently about tech use and innovate conscientiously. A story like that, it's worth its weight in microchips when we talk about tomorrow's inheritance.
Man, Simon, if kids are daydreaming about robots fixing the planet today, what's stopping them from actually building them tomorrow?
Joe, nothing's stopping them. Kids who play with Legos today become the engineers of tomorrow. It's like we're watching the prequel to solving climate change in their playrooms.
Hey, no doubt, Lego actually committed to making all their bricks from sustainable materials by 2030, and teaching kids about engineering and problem solving through play. That's huge for developmental skills. Plus, educational programs are now integrating STEAM learning. That's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, getting kids comfortable with tech early on. But it's not just futuristic playtime. Schools and organizations have introduced sustainability-focused robotics competitions like First Lego League, where the challenge is to build robots that can take on environmental tasks. And at home, you can find parents opting for eco-friendly tech products designed to be more durable and repairable, curbing the buy and toss cycle. With proper recycling knowledge and habits instilled early, these kids could completely reshape our tech life cycle. So, like a Lego brick laying the foundation, today's play is building our sustainable future, block by block.
Right, tapping into that STEAM approach is genius. It's hands-on and real-world relevant. And durable gadgets, that's like giving a second life before it becomes sentimental clutter in our drawers. Keeps the innovation cycle as tight as a Lego creation. No loose bricks. But hey, thinking about tomorrow, what world-changing ideas are brewing in your kids' minds right now as they turn trash into their latest invention?
And speaking of those kids growing up to be pioneers, Simon, it makes me wonder who inspired them. Like, they didn't just come up with these eco-conscious ideas in a vacuum, right? There's this whole lineage of innovators, the quiet revolutionaries in the computing world who started weaving in sustainability right from the start. Take the guys behind the earliest energy-efficient CPUs and the development of sleep modes, or even the creators of the first low-power LCDs. We're talking late 80s, early 90s here. It was like planting the seeds for a garden that only now we're starting to really appreciate. Those pioneers, they saw the crossroads where tech meets environmental impact long before most people were taking it seriously. So when we talk about tracing roots, it isn't just old history. It's about uncovering the DNA of today's sustainable tech.
Yeah, Joe. Digging into the past to find those eco-conscious roots is super eye-opening. Makes you think, who were these unsung heroes questioning the norm, prioritizing the planet alongside processing power? Like, they probably faced tons of skeptics, but kept on pushing boundaries because they saw where things had to go. And it's like, we've got to ask ourselves, who are the unsung pioneers today? The ones laying down new paths for green tech that maybe the next generation's going to look back on with awe.
Yeah, so let's look closer. Consider someone like Gordon Moore, right? He predicted rapid tech innovation, but also flagged that efficiency and component cost had to be sustainable. Combine his insight with the engineers who designed the power management systems and operating systems. This isn't just convenient, it's crucial for energy conservation. And like Energy Star standards? Sure, we take it for granted now, but at inception, that was revolutionary thinking in terms of efficient energy use for consumer electronics, man. These ideals, they set the tone for where we're headed. And today you've got organizations pushing for greener data centers and lowering the carbon footprint of cloud computing. It's critical because our insatiable data needs are like a never-ending buffet line for energy, yeah? So as we breathe life into newer, more efficient technologies, we're really following in those footsteps, treading quietly but firmly towards sustainability. And it's not just advancing tech, it's evolving how we think about technology's role in society and its impact on our planet.
Oh, for sure. But hold on. What if your phone could plant a tree with every charge? Now that'd be tech evolution with a green thumb.
So that's a cool concept, Simon, like really out there, but let's ground it for a second, because actually powering conservation directly through tech use isn't quite there yet. And here's the thing, it's one part about energy generation and another about how we use that energy. So, yeah, your phone planting a tree sounds amazing, but practically speaking, having a direct impact like that is complex. Let's take these carbon offset programs. While they signal green intentions, critics argue they can be misleading or might not lead to verifiable impacts right away. It's because technology still relies on traditional power grids, which are often fossil fuel heavy. And while we're making headway with renewable energy sources, solar and wind, they're not yet foolproof or available globally in a consistent way. So, when you plug in your phone, the majority of that electricity you draw is likely non-renewable, at least for now. There's a gap between idealistic visions and like what our current infrastructure supports. It's critical to keep pushing boundaries, looking for innovations, but it's equally important to anchor those ideas in reality, ensuring they achieve genuine sustainability gains and don't end up as sort of eco-fantasy or greenwashing.
Not to burst anyone's eco bubble, but while we wait for our phones to grow green thumbs, let's not forget about the massive server farms guzzling juice like a gamer at a Mountain Dew convention.
Ha! Ain't that the truth, man? These server farms are like the Vegas Strip for electricity. Neon lights never go out. We need a beast of an overhaul in energy efficiency, and not just light sips. We're talking knockout punches of savings. Got to think smarter about how we're powering the digital backbone of pretty much everything now.
Exactly. Think about it. Server farms and their megawatt appetites. But we can't just keep pointing fingers. It's also on us to support the shift. Like tech companies flaunt green credentials, but if the demand for energy-hogging devices drops, they'll, speed up that overhaul. Vote with your wallet kind of thing. Imagine a world where every click, every stream, every endless scroll contributes directly to renewable energy projects. It sounds dreamy, but the tech's got to roll up its sleeves. It's not all about flying cars and holograms, right? We need real groundwork, practical magic, not just to look good on the green carpet, but to make long-term sustainability the main act, not the sideshow.
Oh, Simon, laying down those solid facts, huh? Okay, here's the rundown. Data centers globally could consume about 8% of projected global electricity demand by 2030. Yeah, that's huge. Tech companies are responding. They're trying to match consumption with renewable energy procurement. Leaders in this charge, like Google and Apple, even claim they've hit or are close to hitting net zero for their operations by sourcing renewable energy equivalent to their consumption. Now, about consumer power, you nailed it. In 2020, Dell reported around half of their electricity usage came from renewables, partially driven by consumer demands for greener products. And every swipe and tap, the internet's carbon footprint might eclipse air travels, which is wild because who really thinks about emails as pollutive? So you're right, it's not sci-fi tech, but practical steps towards efficiency we need. Better server cooling technologies, AI-driven energy distribution, pushing the whole industry towards bold sustainability standards. Vote with your wallet? 100%. It causes ripples back through the supply chain, nudging big tech to get serious about green practices. Now that's some practical magic at play.
With tech titans aiming for net zero and our own buying choices, we're all part of this massive eco-conscious puzzle. What are the other pieces we've yet to turn over?
Yeah, and the puzzle's bigger than just personal choice and corporate pledges, Simon. It spans into how we physically build and integrate this tech into our environment. Like consider urban design, how we mesh these modern necessities with natural ecosystems, right? Take the concept of silicon shrubs, getting literal with urban data centers by mingling in actual greenery. Instead of hiding them away, architects are designing centers that not only resemble but function like natural ecosystems. Energy-efficient, closed-loop systems that can partly power themselves and give back to the city. Imagine a data center with external walls covered in vegetation, absorbing CO2, spewing out oxygen, just like a tree line in your local park. And by using waste heat for nearby buildings or even urban farming, they're contributing more than computational power. They're slotting into the city's ecosystem, promoting sustainability from within the urban jungle. So it's about turning over those stones, finding ways tech can do its job without being an environmental snooze fest, but rather an active participant that enhances city living. That's the kind of harmonized future we should aim for, one where silicon doesn't stand apart from green space, but coexists with it, thriving together.
Okay, let's look at that. Silicon shrubs. Integrating data centers into the urban landscape can be slick, but I'm thinking, like, are we masking the issue? Data centers dressed in green doesn't change the hard facts. Sure, they're pretty, and maybe they cool themselves a bit. But the trade-off's gotta match up. Will these fancy shrubs really offset the carbon footprint? And cooling, these aren't snow cones at a summer fair. They're energy hogs, right? So making them eco-friendly is cool, literally. But it's like painting racing stripes on a monster truck expecting it to speed past gas stations. Still, closing the loop has merit. Reclaimed water systems and waste heat for urban farming. That's some future city stuff right there. The case studies where tech and nature team up, it has flair, but let's not forget, it has to work harder than just eye candy. It must hit real sustainability benchmarks, or else we risk creating green mirage centers.
Ha, totally, man. It's like putting a band-aid on a broken arm if we're not careful. The design's gotta walk the talk for real impact.
But just imagine, Joe, if skyscrapers went full cyborg plant hybrid. Now that would make any city skyline more interesting and probably confuse the heck out of pigeons.
No kidding. Skyscrapers with a cyborg plant makeover. Now that's a vision, Simon. Imagine the impact on air quality alone. Buildings absorbing CO2 and maybe solar energy too? That could be huge. And true, it might throw pigeons for a loop, but it's about finding balance, beneficial tech integration without turning our cities into sci-fi sets, right? And hey, if these green builds are done with serious eco goals in mind, not just aesthetics, they can fundamentally change how we view urban growth. Like buildings as living organisms, self-sustained, feeding on sun, wind, and rain. It sure beats concrete monoliths guzzling power nonstop. So yeah, silicon shrubs could be more than fancy dressing. They could signal a shift to urban spaces that breathe sustainability in and out. But let's keep it real. It has to be effective, quantifiable change, not just rooftops lost to swanky gardens few people see. Kind of like bringing purpose back to the concrete jungle, connecting every layer of city life to a greener grid.
I get it, truly. The eco-utopian cityscape sounds fab. But I'm the skeptic here. Like, how are these high-concept ideas really panning out? Let's not kid ourselves. Those urban data centers disguised as lush forests, are they bringing home the bacon in energy savings or just raking up Instagram likes? And efficiency isn't all about the green garnish on the outside, right? It's what's under the hood that counts. Like server efficiency, waste heat recycling. Stuff that doesn't always make for a pretty picture, but actually drops numbers on those power bills. It's great PR to have a building that looks like it could photosynthesize, but if we're talking ecosystems, it ain't just about looks. A natural ecosystem is balanced. It all works together. You know, the energy use, the waste, it doesn't just look green, it lives green. So this whole silicon shrub thing has got to prove its worth beyond aesthetics. Is it reducing the building's overall impact? Are these structures alleviating the concrete sprawl and actually contributing positively to the city's biosphere? And hey, case studies where tech plays nice with nature, let's hear more of those. Because without hard data and tangible benefits, silicon shrubs might just stay in concept land. Gotta keep pushing for meaningful innovation, not just theoretical greenery.
True. And imagine if silicon shrubs became more than a trend, turning tech ecosystems into biodiversity hotspots. Now that's a real game changer.
And if they attract more than just pigeons, like actual wildlife visiting a data hub like it's an oasis, that'd be going viral for the right reasons.
That would be wild, right? Like tech hubs as new habitats could boost urban biodiversity. Gotta wonder though, how do you balance security with open green spaces? You know, data centers got some tight protocols.
Yeah, you're spot on there. Security's a biggie. Data centers are like the Fort Knox for bytes and bits, right? So how do we swing that door open to, like, let the butterflies in but keep the bad guys out? Any case studies come to mind, Joe, where this is working out?
All right, for those just hopping on, Simon and I are diving into the world of silicon shrubs. These aren't your grandma's bushes, though. They're like a sci-fi mashup where urban data centers, those massive hubs of servers and tech that make our digital lives tick, are getting all cozied up with nature to create this green tech symbiosis. So we've been hashing out how these centers can mimic ecosystems. Um, and not just pretending by slapping some plant life on the walls, although, hey, that eye candy's cool, but by intertwining their function deeply with the environment, right? Like they could use waste heat for stuff besides warming up winter toes, maybe grow food or give back to the city grid. And then there's security, with a nod to Simon's point about keeping the doors closed enough to keep data safe, but open just a crack for Mother Nature to squeeze in. Easier said than done, but when it works, yeah, it's a win in more ways than one. So there you have it, folks. Our quick catch-up on silicon shrubs. Think data banks meeting eco parks, blending bytes with buzzing bees, and hoping those energy savings aren't just fancy fairy tales. All right, let's keep this rolled around in our heads. Moving along, Simon. What's next on the docket?
Yeah, so to wrap this shrubby chat up, we've scratched the surface of turning data centers into these part machine, part mossy eco hubs. There's a load more to dig into, like how they'll actually weave into our cityscapes and what the community vibes would be. Will they be just another building or something more alive? A lot of thinking still to plant on this one, huh?
Yeah, Simon, definitely a lot to think about with those silicon shrubs. Um, Makes you think about when we've gone overboard, right? Swinging into the other lane. Ever heard some extreme tales where tech goes green, but maybe too green? There's got to be a few good ones where that save power mode gets cranked to 11. And let's have some laughs, right? From past eco-friendly tech flubs that missed by a mile to the life of our fictional green extremist computer engineer, imagine his day, unplugging the fridge to juice up the laptop. It's a wild world in the land of low power.
Oh man, Joe, it reminds me of this time I had this neighbor, right? Guy was nuts about saving energy. Used to cycle on this stationary bike to power his laptop. No joke. One night, we're all trying to watch a movie at his place, and like halfway through, the screen just dies. There we are, in the dark, and he's like, oops, guess I didn't pedal enough today. We're all groaning, because there goes movie night. But looking back, you gotta admire the dedication or insanity. Thin line.
Man, that's hilarious. Pedal-powered movie nights. Who needs a gym membership, right? Spare tire turns into spare time when the Netflix buffers. Insanity or innovation, sometimes you just gotta roll with it. Kinda makes me think of those boom boxes where you'd have to wind them up, keep cranking to keep the party going. Like imagine a DJ in the middle of a mix and, oops, tunes are down because he forgot to wind up his deck. Party's over unless someone's got strong wrists. But on the real, there's something both funny and kind of genius about taking low-power living to the max. Props to the pedal hustlers out there. Now, let's hop on to the next track. What else you got for us, Simon?
Oh, you know what that makes me think of? This one office job I had, we were all about going green. So someone had the bright idea to put motion sensor lights in to save power, right? But these sensors were like, oh, way too eager. You're typing away and bam, lights out if you're not flailing your arms every 5 minutes. So there I am, looking like I'm directing invisible planes just to keep my corner lit. People passing by probably thought it was some weird new workout craze. Gotta say, though, made those long workdays a bit more lively.
That's gold, Simon. Saving power is one thing, but turning the office into a mime training ground? Pfft. Here's a thought. Those lights probably saved on electricity, sure, but what about productivity, right? Everyone's doing impromptu arm aerobics. And like, what if you're on a roll, super focused, or just having one of those lazy days. Now suddenly you're in an accidental game of freeze tag with your desk lamp. But hey, let's flip it. Could make for a great fitness app integration. Don't you think? Like type 100 words, then boop, time to dance. We've got desks that stand up, so why not lights that keep us on our toes? Literally. It's all laughs until someone's shaking their coffee around like maracas just for some light. Is this low power thing enlightening or just lightheaded thinking? Thoughts, people. Simon, let's keep this absurd tech train rolling. What's your next bite-sized morsel?
You've got to love the irony, right? Low power living is all fine and dandy until your actual lifestyle gets a shock. So there's this guy. Let's call him Dave. He's our green extremist computer engineer, right? Starts his day with the warm glow of his hand-cranked laptop before he remembers his internet router doesn't crank. Then there's coffee. Poor Dave opted for beans crushed by bicycle power. Talk about a grind. Makes his brew, but it's like room temp, because who needs a kettle when you've got guilt-free, lukewarm goodness? By lunchtime, Dave's feeling good, saving the planet one patch update at a time. But oh no, here comes a cloud covering the solar panel. Guess it's peanut butter no toast today. And end of the day, Dave settles in for some leisurely reading on his eco-friendly tablet that dims just as the plot thickens because someone thought ambient light was enough for, actual humans. I mean, come on. It's hilarious how we pat ourselves on the back for these tiny victories while low-key suffering. Sustainably inconvenienced. It's a thing. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, even if those are powering your house. All right, Joe, what eco-madness have you got to top off our green cup of comedy?
Man, Dave's life is like a board game where every roll's an energy gamble. Will he finish his email before the crank gives out, or will it be candlelit keyboards at dusk? Talk about living on the edge of a blackout.
Ha, yeah, the guy's living by the spin of the wheel. Makes roulette look like child's play. But low-key feel for him during power outages takes off the grid to a new guessing game level.
Diving deeper into this topic of eco-impact in tech, like how do we even measure if what we're doing is truly green? There's a heap of debate on whether we can achieve true green computing. Like, sure, we got energy-efficient processors, data centers underwater to keep them cool, but is it enough? Then there's the philosophical side, right? If you plant a tree for every 1,000 emails sent, are you really balancing the books or just patting yourself on the back while sipping an iced latte from a plastic cup? And don't forget the economic side. Green tech ain't cheap. Companies juggle saving pennies with saving polar bears, and that's like a super tricky balance beam to walk. Sure, we're shaving watts off our usage, but let's be real. Are we actually moving the needle enough or just skewing the math to feel better? Heaviness aside, there's hope. Innovation's cooking up some wild solutions, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. Got to look at that long-term impact beyond the quarterly quotas. So Simon, how are we tying all these quandaries together, huh?
It's a total mind bender, Joe. Like, quantifying green impact is kind of like trying to measure how much love there is in the room. You feel it's there, but slapping a number on it, tough stuff. See, you bring up trees for emails. Makes me wonder if we're like missing the forest for the, literal trees here. You plant one, does it really offset all that tech use? Or is it just a feel-good drop in a very dry bucket? This stuff gets super tricky with businesses always eyeing the bottom line. Like, sure, we'll go green, as long as it doesn't mess with our greenbacks, Yeah, I think that's the heart of it, right? How do you mesh profit and planet without skimming off the top of either? And hey, can we even trust the same folks selling us the tech to tell us it's green? So, Joe, how are companies supposed to walk this eco tightrope without falling off?
Simon, that's the million-dollar question, balancing those books without tipping the scales too hard in any direction. Companies are like tightrope walkers up there, wearing dollar-sign glasses while trying to spot the environmental ledge. And, trust, that's a biggie. You can flash all the eco certificates you want, but transparency's as thin as recycled toilet paper if we don't peel back the layers. But here's a spin. Are these green measures really for the planet or just another marketing ploy like, hey, buy our stuff because We love Earth too. So, Simon, what do you think it'll take for real, honest-to-goodness trust between consumers and the tech world on this rocky road of green computing?
Yeah, Joe. I think we're talking about like those commercials where they show someone hugging a tree while texting. Nice visual. But come on. Maybe if these companies showed real changes instead of flashy ads, huh? Like swap the PR stunts for some behind the scenes looks at the guts of their operations. Trust is built in the nitty gritty, not the shiny brochures.
Yeah, you hit it right there, Simon. People are smart. They can sniff out the difference between real change and glossy greenwashing any day of the week. So let's say these companies do crack open their operations. What about accountability? You've got all these big names pledging to go carbon neutral, but like who's holding the measuring tape to make sure it's not just a bunch of hot air? And let's be super real for a sec. The tech's only as green as its life cycle, from birth in the factory to its graveyard in the recycling bin. We're talking about environmental footprints that have more steps than my pedometer on a good day. So, think about it. We've got this silicon-carrying elephant in the room called e-waste, and it's growing. Maybe if we tackle that beast head-on, then we could start believing the Earth-friendly hype that's being sold our way. It's like, give us the raw data, show us the life cycle, own up to the waste, and hey, maybe throw in a live-streamed factory tour with questions from the skeptical public. How's about that for transparency, huh? Come on, Simon, let's dig even deeper. How should companies be proving their green metal to us, the conscientious customers?
Ha! Yeah, how about a reality show for tech companies? Keeping up with the Green Kardashians. Watch them scramble to recycle and save face. Wouldn't miss an episode.
For sure, Simon. The eco-reality show might just be the ticket. Strip away the corporate spiel, and let's see the good, bad, and ugly. Now that would quantify some quandaries. It's like companies have got to get real with us. We're talking extended producer responsibility. I mean, where does old tech go when it retires? Huh? Make them accountable for every device from cradle to grave. Or hey, even better, cradle to reincarnation with recycling programs that actually work. And then there's the life cycle assessment. That needs to be as common as nutrition labels on food. Like, give me a breakdown. How much water was used? CO2 released? Whose backyard got dug up for materials? But breathe in, breathe out. Let's not forget software, too. It ain't all about the hardware. Got these massive data centers chewing through power like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. We need to look at their diets, too. Cleaner code, optimized processing. Devs could stand to put their apps on a green fitness plan. So yeah, like if we can pull back that curtain on operations, peek at the actual impact they're having, cracks and all, then maybe we'll get to something resembling true green impact measurement. Transparency's king, right? One bite at a time, Simon. What's your take?
Oh, software diets? Now there's a New Year's resolution every app on my phone needs to sign up for. Drop those digital carbs.
Yeah, digital carb cutting. Can't imagine the notifications. This app just lost 10 megabytes. It's on a data diet. But, let's not sugarcoat it either. Dropping code weight is crucial for energy saving, but how often do companies really optimize their software? Oh, and another thing, about those numbers we love to toss out there for green impact, they're sometimes about as transparent as an oil slick. You've got all these different standards, no universal measuring stick. It's a made-up math if I ever saw any, just gussied up to look good. Sue, then consider this. Does knowing the exact impact even change behavior? Studies show folks aren't always motivated by stats alone. They need that personal nudge, that emotional connect. Maybe instead of showing me trees saved, show me what my browsing does to an actual piece of forest. Yeah, like put a face to it. Real tech sustainability needs to hit home, like make users feel part of the cycle, knee-deep in the e-waste ditch. Visualization over calculation. Maybe that's our missing link. But Simon, what are you thinking here? How do we make folks care about the not-so-sexy side of green impact without making them tune out?
Green impact? It's like convincing my cat to take a bath. Just because it needs to happen doesn't mean there won't be scratches involved.
Yeah, convincing your cat. or anyone really, to willingly jump into change. Total scratch fest. Reminds me of this time my sister tried to cut her own carbon footprint. She was all gung-ho about it, got herself a compost bin, meatless Mondays, the works. It was like watching someone trying to bathe that cat, man. Then she saw her electricity bill post changes. Barely a dent. Kind of deflating. But then she switched her focus. Started teaching her kids why turning off lights matters, why we recycle, putting the why behind the action. Couple months later, their school project actually changed how their cafeteria managed waste. So, tiny footprint at home, but her kids, they stomped a whole new path. So maybe there's something in starting small, impacting those right around you to spark bigger change. It's like the if a tree falls thing. If nobody hears your green efforts, did they even happen? Maybe loud isn't always large when it comes to impact.
Well, Joe, sometimes it's like throwing a water balloon at a forest fire, huh? But hey, if enough people start chucking them, we might just wet the underbrush.
Speaking of making a splash with small efforts, Simon, technology's kind of doing the same thing. Like animals hunkering down in winter, tech's learning to sip power instead of chugging it. We're talking gadgets that crunch data on less juice than it takes to light up your room. Innovation taking cues from nature. Because let's face it, no one does efficiency like a bear in a cave. And take e-ink displays, right? Those things go for days without needing more power, like they're napping between page turns. Or how about those ultra-low power CPUs humming away in our devices, keeping cool while multitasking? It's like, why can't all our tech be this sleepy when it comes to energy use? What's your take, Simon?
Whoa, Joe, it's pretty wild when you think about how nature's been playing the long game with energy efficiency, and we're just catching up. Like bears, nature's OG energy savers, have been doing this hibernating hustle for millennia. And now we've got those e-ink displays. Man, they're kind of like etch-a-sketches for the digital age, barely sipping any power. Plus, there's CPUs that are getting chillier by the minute, running cool while, we're binge-watching or in spreadsheet hell. But, okay, question time. If our tech evolves to be all hibernate-y with energy, what's that going to mean for our daily grind? Could we see, like, a battery life revolution on the horizon or what?
Battery life revolution. Dude, if energy sipping tech truly catches on, we won't just see a revolution. It'll be like the era of the everlasting bunny. Imagine devices lasting weeks without a charge. People wouldn't even remember where they left their chargers. It's cool, but here's a pushback. What about performance? You've got gamers, creatives, all these power users who need muscle in their machines. Will this hibernate-y trend keep up, or will they hit snooze on it because it can't handle their heavy lifting? And let's not forget, as much as I love a good e-ink display for reading, try streaming your favorite show on that. You'll be craving those juicy pixels before the opening credits even roll. So while these trends are heading to Napville, we gotta ask, is the payoff worth the trade-off? Low power is great, but our high-powered lives might not be ready for full-on tech hibernation just yet. What do you reckon, Simon?
Maybe we'll start wearing battery life status bars on our shirts, huh? Hey, look at Jim, an impressive 75% till next charge.
Reminds me of last year, right? I went backpacking off the grid and I had this ancient phone with a super low power mode. Didn't think much about it till out there with no outlet in sight. And well, let me tell you, it was like finding an oasis in a desert, man. I flipped that low power switch and it was like my phone slipped into hibernation. Thing made it the whole trip on that one charge. Just me and a battery life I could count on like a trusty sidekick. Performance-wise, basic stuff still worked. A call here, a text there, no fancy frills. Kind of peaceful, actually, when you embrace the slowdown. So while Jim's strutting around with his wearable power gauge looking all high-tech, I was out there whispering sweet nothings to my half-dead phone, begging it to hang tight until we made it back to civilization. Taught me a solid lesson in appreciating minimalism, even got me rethinking my own energy use afterwards. So yeah, tech taking cues from nature with these energy-sipping trends. It may just save our skins more than we give it credit for. Maybe even guide us toward a different pace. less consumption focused, bit more harmony. What's your story with low power survival, Simon?
Low power reminds me of my grandma's indestructible flip phone. Outlasts modern tech by weeks. Not smart, but it sure is clever.
Yeah, Grandma's flip phone is like the tech world's tortoise winning the race against all these hairs we've got in our pockets and on our desks. And it's not just about lasting weeks. It's showing us that sometimes simpler can be smarter. It's like, okay, when you strip back to basics, you cut out a ton of power drain. That's why your grandma's phone is still kicking while our smartphones are gasping for juice by lunchtime. And one thing we've got to get across, this isn't about dialing back to the Stone Age. It's more like refining what we have, trimming the fat. You've got companies tweaking CPUs so they're using less energy, even on intense tasks. It's kind of like putting your car in eco mode without kissing goodbye to the turbo when you really need it. Plus, manufacturers are getting crafty with materials, right? They're finding ways to eke out every last drop of energy efficiency, and that goes beyond batteries. We're talking motherboards woven from something like power-stingy threads. Sue, embrace the minimalism. It's clever, and it's the future. Just ask your grandma. So, breathing out all this green tech talk, it makes me wonder what other lessons old-school gadgets could teach us, you know? Like, where else should today's tech take a step back to leap forward?
Imagine if we treated tech like food, cutting the junk out of our digital diets for a healthier, longer-lasting charge.
Yeah, exactly. It's like with food. If you keep it lean and cut the crap, your body runs smoother for longer. Same deal with our tech. Got apps gumming up the works with background updates? Cut them out. Features that are just digital sugar, pure battery drain without the nutrients? We don't need them. It's basically cleaning up our devices to keep them running clean and efficient. Just get the essentials dialed in and ditch the bloated software. Keep it tight, keep it right. Boom. And you've got a recipe for tech that lasts.
On the flip side, you've got folks who argue power-sipping tech isn't going to cut it for everyone. Take gamers and pros. They need the juice for performance. And you can't ignore facts. Higher res screens, faster processors, they gulp power by design. Plus, while e-ink's cool for reading, it's like watching paint dry for high-speed stuff. And software? Developers keep piling on features because, well, users crave that kind of rich experience. Still, ain't an excuse to stagnate. But it's a legit point. Power sipping has its place, but when you gotta move quick and multitask hard in this digital rat race, you'll be needing that full calorie count.
Yeah, that's the catch-22, right? Balance. We can lean out tech all we want, but there's going to be a breaking point where power sippers just don't cut it for heavy lifters like gamers and pros. But okay, what if there's another angle here? Take a look at how some gaming rigs got modes to dial back energy use when full throttle isn't needed. Kind of like giving them that dual personality, you know? So does marrying these two worlds, making devices smart enough to switch gears between power modes, can that be our middle ground, or are we still playing catch-up with user expectations versus efficiency? What do you think, Simon?
That idea of dual modes, Joe, it's like having a pickup truck that turns into a Prius when you hit the highway, solid for saving fuel, or a battery in this case, when you don't need to haul a sofa. But will it satisfy everyone? Guess there's always gonna be a bit of tension between the power-hungry users and the energy-conserving tech. We're not quite there yet with that perfect blend. The key might be smart software working behind the scenes, kind of like a backstage crew at a show, adjusting settings on the fly, reading user habits, and coughing up energy just where it's needed without missing a beat. If the industry nails that, maybe you'd have gamers who don't see red at their battery bars and pros who can actually unchain from outlets, could be a game changer. And if they pull it off, it'll be pretty darn impressive. What about you? What's your take, Joe?
Definitely, it's that subtle art of balance. If tech masters that dual mode thing, juice when you need it, sipping when you don't, it might just revolutionize our relationship with devices. And hey, this energy sipping trend, it's got legs, but also, questions. How far can we push efficiency without hitting a compromise wall? Can smart software make high-energy tasks seamless while in Prius mode? It's like leaving a breadcrumb trail at the edge of innovation. Where to next? Makes you think, doesn't it, Simon?
Well, sticking to the theme of power and efficiency, Joe, there's this whole other realm, hand-cranked electronics. Talk about a throwback, right? But hey, when you're out of options, these gizmos are like finding a secret level in a video game. Remember those hand-powered phone chargers? I was at this beach once, no outlets for miles, and my phone dies. Panic mode, right? Then this guy whips out a charger with a crank on it, like he's starting a fire, but powering up his phone instead. Everyone's giving him that, what century are we in look. But turns out Mr. Throwback wasn't just showing off an antique, he saved the day. Messages sent, crisis averted, all thanks to something you'd expect to find in your granddad's tool shed. It's weirdly whimsical. These hand-powered gadgets, they don't care about outlets or even the sun, just some good old elbow grease. Ever had to rely on one of these beauties, Simon?
Yeah. So about hand crank tech, like it's not just for charging phones, it blossoms into radios, flashlights, and even emergency tools. These gadgets, they've become kind of heroic in remote spots or disaster zones where power's a fairy tale. There's this one time, a blackout hit mid-podcast recording, just total darkness, dead silence. And then I remember this wind-up radio with a little light I had. So I start cranking that thing like an ice cream maker, and boom, we're back on air, sort of. We finished the episode in analog style, recording on a, very unsure battery life. It's hilarious when you think about it. High-tech Joe, saved by a piece of tech old as hills. What makes him golden is it's just straightforward mechanics. No frills, no fuzz, crank it up, get juice out. It's brilliant in its own wacky way. And let me tell you, those moments, they make you appreciate simplicity. You feel like MacGyver turning elbow grease into a lifeline. It has this charm, reminds us we can be kind of crafty creatures when pushed off grid. Ever find yourself getting whimsical with a hand crank, Simon?
Tell you what, Joe, in a world obsessed with touchscreens and voice commands, there's this quirky satisfaction in powering your own device. It's pure comedy. Feels like you're auditioning for an infomercial. And if you act now, not only do you charge your phone, but you also get a workout.
Oh man, totally. It's like you're the battery, charging tech with every spin. Adds a whole new level of multitasking, right? Power your phone and get those wrist reps in. Tech meets gym, 2-in-1 deal.
You ever crank so hard you forget if you're charging a phone or trying to win a carnival game? Step right up, power your device, and win a stuffed animal.
Oh, for sure. You get into this frenzy cranking like you're at the final round of some game show. And let's not talk about Cramp City here. Those hand-cranked chargers are no joke. Seriously. But then there's that victory lap when your phone lights up. It's a mini celebration. Like, yeah, forget charging pads, folks. Watch me go 0 to 100 with my bare hands. Literally creating power from thin air and sheer willpower. It taps into something kind of primal, doesn't it? It's like these throwback gadgets. They make us part of the process, not just passive users, but active participants. Gets you thinking, what if we took this approach to other tech areas? How would shaking things up affect our techie lifestyles?
That's a pretty cool thought, Joe. Getting hands-on, literally, could add some real charm to our slick button-pressing world. Makes you wonder, like, what if every gadget had us as a cog in the machine? Would we actually take better care of them, value them more? It's that sense of work for the reward, right? So, this got me thinking, despite the tech leaps and bounds, is that raw human touch, that craftsmanship aspect, something we're missing out on today? What's your take on that, Joe?
Yeah, about that craftsmanship touch. It's got this personal connection. We're part of the creation process with a hand-cranked gadget. When you put in sweat to, like, make something work, there's a different level of appreciation. Like, think about it. If every device needed a bit of elbow grease, we'd maybe treat them better. No more disposable tech mindset. Instead, respect for the effort. It could change the whole throwaway culture. And it's not just about valuing the gadgets, but valuing the energy they use too. Knowing what it takes to charge up could spark, no pun intended, a bigger conversation on efficiency, huh? So yeah, Hand power isn't just whimsical, it's kind of educational too. What are your thoughts, Simon?
Totally with you there, Joe. Hand crank tech, it's more than just quirky. It's teaching us the value and effort of power, pushing against that disposable culture. It might even lead to a new wave of creativity in designing things. Ingenious and educational. Now that's a combo. Makes you wonder what else we could hand crank. Ideas, anyone?
Speaking of appreciating power use and efficiency, there's this whole hidden energy hog in our homes, standby power waste. It's sneaky. Your gadgets slurping electricity even when you're not using them. Even turned off, they're like vampires at a blood bank, always on the nibble. Makes you wonder why we're not more fired up about solving that problem in modern tech, doesn't it?
Right, Joe? It's like, why are we still dealing with these power-hungry ghouls in the age of smart tech? You'd think by now someone would have driven a stake into the heart of this standby power suck fest. I get it, updates and all that jazz, but come on. And, isn't it wild how such a small thing blasts big holes in our saving energy boat? We're out here paddling away, trying to keep afloat on the sustainability sea, and meanwhile, our living room's leaking watts like a sieve. Industry folks could totally step up. Maybe they need an incentive, some sort of energy diet challenge for gadgets, uh, or maybe stiffer energy standards. Sometimes you gotta force change, not just nudge it. Anyway, burning up juice in standby mode feels awfully outdated, like tossing recyclables into the trash. Ain't nobody got time or resources for that. What do you think about nudging the industry forward, Joe?
Uh, you know, that's a solid point. It feels downright archaic keeping tech on an unnecessary power drip. These standby modes are like holes in your pocket where change trickles out unnoticed until you're left wondering where it all went. And like incentivizing the industry, that's actually smart thinking. Pushing for tighter regulations or maybe rewards for low diet tech could spark that much needed overhaul. Innovation ain't easy, but man, does it pay off. Not just for wallets, but for the planet too. So, dive into this idea of incentives with me, Simon. How do you see that playing out? Like tax breaks for energy efficient products or perhaps more visible energy ratings on gadgets to guide consumers? What's cooking up in that brain of yours?
Yeah, so diving deeper, it's like battery life is this huge selling point, right? But then you got the flip side. Devices quietly nibbling on power when they're supposed to be napping, like sneaky midnight snackers. So if we highlight those energy ratings, make them big and bold on packaging, or even throw a sleek low standby sticker on there, not just tiny print buried in a manual, that could shake things up. Visibility is key, Joe. People can't care about what they, don't see or get. And, tax breaks. Yeah, reward manufacturers for cutting the standby waste. Like, hey, your product doesn't leach power in its sleep? Here's a high five from the government. It simplifies choices for consumers and drives companies to innovate. Because let's be honest, money talks, even whispers sometimes. This isn't small potatoes. It's about shifting the norm, flipping that script. You plug something in, and either it's working for you or should be totally snoozing, not sort of dozing. That should be the standard, not a bonus feature. We could be plugging up those leaks. If we're clever about it, incentivize the right moves. What's your next move, Joe?
Right, like imagine, Simon, if all our gadgets went on an energy diet, how much juice we'd save, enough to power entire cities. Now that's a high-stakes game of hide and seek with wasted watts.
Yeah, powering cities sounds great and all, Joe, but let me rain on that parade a bit. Aren't we kind of hooked on convenience? Like devices update overnight so they're ready when we wake up. And switching them off completely might mean slower startup times or missed notifications. It's like telling people eating salad will save them gym time. Sure, in theory, good luck selling that lifestyle though. So we get this standoff, energy savings versus instant gratification. Uh, Maybe the tech brains need to cook up a middle ground, some sort of smart standby mode that sips power instead of guzzling it. Innovation, right? Not just nudging, but pushing for smart tech that respects our lazy bones and the planet. I gotta wonder, though, Joe, if enough people really care to tip the scales. What's your gut say?
Wait, that's actually pretty wild, you know? Like the whole concept of devices eating power even when they're dozing didn't really cross my mind before. And sure, I love the convenience of my phone being updated and ready to go, but there's this hidden cost. Plus, startup times and missed notifications seem like small potatoes compared to the bigger picture of energy waste. If tech wizards can send people to space, surely they can figure out a clever compromise, a smart standby mode without the waste. Huh. This stuff actually matters, Simon. Like, everyone plugged into this grid needs to wake up to these phantom drawdowns. It's kind of nuts when you think about it. Our homes are like mini power plants with all the wasted energy we don't even notice. Anyway, back to your point. Yeah, selling an efficient lifestyle starts with us valuing the long-term benefits over short-lived conveniences. People caring is the kicker here. If we care enough, change will follow. That's my 2 cents. Got to make every watt count, huh?
Well, Joe, that's a wrap for today. But hey, to all you cool cats out there listening, thanks a ton for tuning in. Make sure you swing by again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for another dose of our delightful banter, where we make every watt and word count, right? Catch you on the flip side.